Welcome back to the warehouse. So, today we finally have something interesting. Well, I say interesting. There's a new chair in the fleet. It's a Quantum Edge 3 Stretto. And I got this thing a couple of days ago. It's pretty much in, well, I'll get into that in a minute, but it's in pretty good shape. Batteries in it seem to be good. It's got QLogic 3 on it, which, as we know, is locked as far as programming goes. But I'm super happy to have this thing in the fleet because now we can finally look at it and figure out some repair stuff. Look at some things like the weird swing away that constantly breaks on the newer chairs. It's that one that has the belt in it, and a few other things. So I think the plan for today is we're just gonna go over this chair. I'm gonna talk about a few things that I like to look at when I get a new chair or a new to me chair that's used. A few things I like to look at, make some basic adjustments, checking bolts and things like that. And since I got the thing, it's actually developed a problem. I picked it up 2 days ago. That night, I ran an extension cord to the van, left it in there overnight, and charged it up. Then that morning, I moved it to the other van because I had to drive. And then today, when I went to pull it out of the van, well, let me show you what's going on. It has now, for whatever reason, when you turn it on, decided that it's still plugged into power. As you can see, the charger is not connected. When it turns on, it beeps at you, and it shows that it's charging and says you can't drive. There you can see the logo there. I've got some footage earlier today of when this first happened that I filmed with my phone. I'll go over that here in a little bit. But I think for right now, what we're gonna do is work on getting some of the adjustments on this thing, because the joystick is, that's not the swing away. The joystick's not attached very well. This armrest is also kind of loose. So basically, we're just gonna look at the chair, see what my initial thoughts are on it. I've resisted the urge as much as possible to not look at this and start fixing stuff on it immediately when I got it, because I wanted to save that for the video and do it. So we're gonna open up the battery case, look at that, see what size batteries it's got, and just a bunch of other random stuff. So I'm gonna throw this thing in neutral and drag it over here because it doesn't want to drive at this point. I can screw around with it and get it to move, but I think actually also maybe we'll pop this joystick off and look inside, because that tells me that the charge inhibit pin is tied to battery negative. So I'm thinking maybe something inside the joystick got shorted or something like that. This thing was basically sitting in a shed for the last year or so. The batteries on it did get charged every month or two, so they're still in decent shape. But you still get some moisture issues and whatnot. And when I picked the thing up, there was a little bit of fog inside this screen. So probably wouldn't hurt to pop that apart and look. So anyways, let's drag this over here and start working on stuff. So this one is spec'd out with power recline, power legs, and it's got the iLevel seat lift system, which is what Pride and Quantum calls their seat lift. But it is a pretty nice looking chair. And I will admit, the way this thing's put together, actually, I think it's pretty decent, maybe. Contrary to popular belief, I really wanted to like the forefront that I had, but it had some issues. This chair was produced after that, and about the time the Forefront 2 came out, and I think they took care of a lot of the issues. The motors on this do look almost identical to what was on the Forefront. So I don't know if we're gonna do it today, but in a future video, we will be definitely taking apart the motors and the brakes to see if they fixed any of the issues that I talked about. And there's a link to the video up above. It's called A Look at My Terrible Chair. That's an almost hour-long video where I took apart the Forefront that I had a number of years ago. Went through and looked at all the things that were, in my opinion, improper with how it was built. But I think Quantum has made some changes. And, well, anyways, we've got a newer chair now, so we can figure this out. Future me here. Side note, this video kind of spirals out of control. Things start happening with that chair, and I've got like 3 hours of footage. So we start going through stuff, and then I just start kind of rapid fire cutting through things and whatnot. Well, no spoilers, just keep watching. But It's kind of an interesting descent into madness. I think it's funny. Now, I could be wrong here, but I think this color, their color scheme, their color naming is weird. I think it's something matte blue jeans or something like that. But it does look pretty decent. The batteries are in here lengthwise, so the back sticks out pretty far. We're gonna pop that cover here in just a minute though, and take a look to see what's going on. Pretty sure it's group 22 batteries, so that means real world range with someone that's my size. You're maybe, I'm just guesstimating here, but maybe 6-7 miles at the absolute very most. Oh, and it does have the little fender lights. There we go. Not super bright. Like a cell phone flashlight is way brighter than this for headlights. However, these lights in the back are pretty bright and it allows people to see you when you're running around at night. It's got some bags and other things on it, and as you can see, the armrests here and everything are pretty loose. So first off, we're gonna pull these bags off. I'm gonna wipe this thing down and clean it up a little bit. Then we're gonna get to tightening some of these bolts. So this is True Balance 3 seating, which I really like. They usually have cantilever armrests. However, this one has the supports on here. So I'm not sure if those supports are actually what are holding this up, because typically on these, they're like the Permobil style where there's nothing holding them and they just sit flat. But you can add another support, because obviously if you push on this, it might try and break stuff. All right, I'm gonna set the camera down and I'm gonna get to some of this and we'll see what we find. This chair appears as though that it came with the occupied transport rating. It's got some extra tie-down hooks up here on the seating as well as down below. And also I do not see the stickers on it that have a picture of a van and someone in a chair with a big X through it. For right now though, we're gonna pull off these seat belts just because they're kind of in the way. And actually, is this? Oh yeah, they just come right off. So these are the optional DOT seat belts that come with the WC19 version of these chairs. But since we're going to be adjusting all of this, I want to get the seat belts off of there just so they're not wrapping around. And also, whatever's going on with this joystick, it could potentially be something with this wiring, and it kind of goes through here. So I'm just going to take all that off for now and hopefully figure out what's going on with this thing. A closer look at these real quick. They have these big metal, like cast metal parts here that clamp to the rail. I think they actually bolt through. Yeah, I need to look, but I think these might bolt through the rail. And the seat belts hook on right here on this bolt, and then this is your tie-down point. The factory tie-down point on the base is down there, and then we have other ones here on the front. So don't quote me on this, but I think the way they want you to do it is 4 straps, one on each corner of the base, and then 2 more on the seating. According to some of the documentation I've seen, you can put 2 on the front and then the 2 on the seating. Now, obviously you don't have the seat lift up like this when you're running around in a vehicle. But yeah, I'm just really excited to have this chair because there's a number of things I wanted to look at. For example, you've probably heard me say in the past that the iLevel or the seat lift mechanism adds a bunch of weight and mechanical complexity to the chair. If you look right here, you can see some springs, and then there's some mechanical actuation cables right here. What that does is it locks out the front suspension when this thing is lifted in the air, because it has their SRS, smooth ride suspension. When you're sitting up this high and your center of gravity is way up here, the front suspension doing this could potentially be dangerous. So they lock out the front suspension as you lift it up. And we will take a look at that in another video. Today we're just gonna kind of look at some basics and whatever. Essentially the way that works though is when the seat lift goes down, it presses on this mechanism here, and you can see that whole thing move. And that goes down and does something up front. We'll investigate that, but part of the mechanical complexity I was talking about. Someone was telling me that the entire iLevel seating system is made by React, who makes the actuators and a bunch of other stuff. So supposedly that system there with the seat lift and these lockouts was not made by Quantum. Random side note, I guess. With the seat lift raised on this thing, you can see it is incredibly narrow. I actually have a photo that I'm going to show. of it next to a I believe it's a 2018 Permobil M3, so you can see the difference in width. The selling feature of this chair is it's super compact and narrow, and supposedly in its stock configuration it's only like 20 inches or 21 inches wide or something like that. My thought is, with a super narrow chair like this, that means I can put exceptionally wide tires on it and it will still fit through doorways. I guess this is kind of sort of a chair built for people that are a little bit smaller. So there's pediatric chairs, and then, you know, there's the regular adult size chairs. This one is kind of a bit of a crossover, I believe. Right now, the seating on it is wider than the base. So with this particular configuration, I don't really see the benefit to having a narrow base chair because all of the armrests and everything hang way out. But that is one of the things we're going to be adjusting, is these armrests right here can be moved in quite a bit. They're unnecessarily wide at the moment. The lighting in here is a little bit tricky, especially with a dark colored thing, but you can see here we've got the newer style shocks here. I don't think, oh yeah, they are adjustable. So the back ones are adjustable, and so are the front ones, which are tucked away down here. They're kind of an orangey brown color, but there is an adjustment mechanism there on the bottom. And then we have the gas struts as well. We've got the battery cover here in the front. It looks to be standard quantum, where you just flip those two levers together and the cover comes off. By the way, this chair has 52 miles on it, so it's relatively new. Has seen a little bit of action here. You can see there's some scrape marks on this, but it kind of makes sense because if you notice here, these armrests stick way out beyond the width of the seat and definitely wider than the tires down below. They basically just use some giant Allen bolts and you can loosen up all these components and get stuff straightened up or adjusted or whatever. Then for adjusting the cantilevered armrest, there's sort of a Permobil style turnbuckle system here. You loosen up a couple of nuts, and as you tighten these up or down, it changes the angle of your armrest. Once again, I'm not sure if these are cantilevered with additional support, or they're designed in this particular chair to be 100% supported by that. Let's start at the beginning though. Right now, you can see all of our brackets for the joystick and everything are a little bit loose. And yeah, the bolts on that are loose. Here's the swing away that I've heard from a lot of people tend to fail. There is a belt in here apparently, and there's a little diagram that shows you how to tighten that. And then also a sticker warning you not to adjust the belt tension. So we are going to take this apart at some point and see what the failure mode is in there. The plan is with this chair, I've actually already gotten some questions about things that people need to repair on these. So amongst, you know, showing people how to fix stuff and maybe coming up with some videos for repair and whatnot, I'm going to try and daily this thing for a little while if I can and do a proper review on it. Let's go ahead and get this joystick centered up here. So I'm going to pull this thing back here. Looks like that is about as far as it'll go. They appear to be 3/16, which is not metric. Interesting. So, let's not throw that on the ground. So I'm just going to sight down the armrest here, make sure that joystick is straight. And these have the speed tips on the end, which allow you to go in here at an angle like this and tighten them up. So I'm just going to kind of tighten these down. I'm not quite sure how they got that loose. Now, our swing away is actually, you know, connected on here the way it should be in the joystick as well. I would actually like to bring this back further, and it looks like all we need to do is loosen up this little turnbuckle thing here. We can slide this back. I like to get this gap here as small as possible while it is not interfering with our little seating controller buttons. There we go. I'm going to tilt that in just a tiny bit because that's the way I likes it. Tighten this down, and there we go. Just the joystick part now seems to clear everything and is a lot more solid. Next thing I want to look at is this joint right here. When you flip this little latch up, it allows you to pull out sometimes. Come out of there. Boy, this thing is all screwy. There we go. This is our support arm hanging down here, and this needs some help as well. But typically these armrests are supposed to stop right here. And also on this one, I gotta be careful with the wiring. It's supposed to stop when you go back this way as well, but this bolt being so loose, I don't think it's actually allowing this mechanism to work the way it should. So I'm going to temporarily set this back in here. Then we're going to grab a ginormous Allen wrench. 5/16, that is enormous. And we're just going to slowly tighten this down. There are some teeth that grab in here, and part of this mechanism also rotates. So there's a very high likelihood that the position of that is not going to be correct for this. I'm just going to loosely tighten this down just a little bit. Oh, there we go. Now, see how this is not connected? And it's hooked in place. Cool. I figured it was just loose hardware that was causing the problem. Okay, so now it should stop right there. And it stops there, stops here. And that does in fact confirm that these are just additional supports. They do that sometimes when people need to lean on their armrest to transfer and stuff like that. We're gonna adjust our width here now. Basically, we're just gonna unhook some of these screws and then everything kind of swivels into place. It is actually handy in this case to have this support bar here because it's gonna hold up the armrest while we're doing this. These bolts have a tendency to be very, very tight. I'm gonna have to grab a cheater bar. And by cheater bar, I mean a 17mm box end wrench. And the brakes are off. So I have to turn those on because it's moving the whole chair. There we go. It's that snap noise that anodized metal makes. I got that one loose. There's another one down here. That one wasn't nearly as bad. As you can see, this bar goes out at an angle. What we want to do is straighten that up. So we've loosened the bolt that's right here and the other bolt that's right here. Seeing as how we have that support on there, it's holding everything up. So we should be able to just kind of twist this over. These do have some teeth that engage in there, so you might have to get the bolts fairly loose. There we go. And now we can just kind of go like this. This is definitely a multi-handed operation. This is very much a multi-step process, and having people around to hold stuff is almost a necessity. Okay, so now we're kind of attached there. Let's see. Yeah, to my eye, that looks pretty good. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this right now, because how do you remove this? Oh, there is an Allen screw there. Yeah, and again, if you guys have any questions about True Balance 3 seating, or Edge 3 chairs, or the Edge 3 Stretto, put them in the comments down below. I'm gonna be making a bunch of videos with this chair. Again, today, this is just kind of first impressions and basic adjustments. So I'm not recording this in a way that is an instructional format, as it were. Case in point, I'm not sure how this is supposed to come off, so I'm just turning bolts. There we go. I've been in here attempting to do some organization to get my workspace set up a little bit better so we can get the keychains going and stuff. And I actually got the mailers. So those are going to be shipped out in these bright purple 4x8" envelopes. The purple color was cheaper than the rest, and it was available next day. But also I figure having colored packaging would be cool when the mail comes, so you know it's your merch or whatever. Let's get some measurements on this for absolutely no reason and see how wide it currently is. Yeah, so with the tires that are currently on here, this base is about 21.5 inches wide. So that leaves us lots of room for larger tires, which we will be attempting at some point. Cable management leaves a bit to be desired, but we'll mess with that. Right now, our seating control switch, which by the way, This is the, I forget what they call it, but it's got little OLED displays in there, so you can get to all your seating functions. This chair is a little bit strange in the sense that it has tilt, power legs, and a seat lift, but it does not have recline. So later on, I'm going to buy a recline actuator for this thing, and we'll work on installing that. Right now, though, I would like this to be a little bit lower because it's taller than the joystick, and I feel like my wrist will be sitting on that a little bit. If we look at my F3 here, I can put my hand straight across and not hit any of these toggles. So my hand almost goes straight across to the joystick, so when I'm using it, my palm doesn't touch those. There are some little tiny screws here that we should be able to adjust that with. So let's pull these out. So these ones are metric. That's a 3mm. So we have 2 holes in this bracket and 3 in this one. So I think what I'm gonna do is just move these to the upper hole. It's not gonna make it quite as low as I want, but for right now, it'll get the job done. There we go, this thing's not flopping around anymore. It's still kind of tall. I think for this, some of these brackets, oh, actually, yeah, see how these are pointing, there's a bent metal piece pointing up right here? I think you can flip this bracket over and then get more adjustment going down. But for now, we're gonna call that good. As far as cable management goes, there's a little clip back here. Don't see one up front. Oh, yeah, this is way too long, so it's gonna have to be fed through here and into the back cover. Let me move this over there. While we're screwing around, let's see if this thing has healed itself yet and wants to move. Oh, I should probably put it back in drive. Configuring network. What on earth? Brake disconnected. Okay, we're getting brake errors because it's in neutral, but as you can see, it still thinks it's charging. Oh, whoa, it's like pushing its own buttons now, too. Seeing as how we need to adjust this cable management anyways, I'm gonna pop this joystick off of here and we're gonna take it apart real quick. This thing seems to be pushing its own buttons. I don't know if there's moisture in there or what, but we need to look inside of it. We have auxiliary studio lighting. If I recall on these, this outer case comes off to reveal the screws. Although we should probably take this bracket off of here first. So just screws, no lock washers or hardware of any kind, other hardware. And I think this just kind of pops off of here, maybe. Sure enough. Hey, there we go. This is our, what you call it? Color changeable piece or whatever. And inside here, oh, it's held together with Phillips screws. Nice. I don't think I've had one of these apart before. Whoop. I'll use the smaller screwdriver. Oh, we found the secrets, eh? Look, there's a SanDisk 8 gig memory card right here. I knew these had an SD card in them, but I didn't realize it was accessible that easily. I know they use these for backing up programming and maybe changing programming in some cases, but that's interesting. I didn't realize it was right there. There's the last of our screws. I do not have a replacement one of these, so I'm gonna have to be careful, because if I screw this up, well, I'm kind of screwed. Okay, we've got a few ribbon cables in here. Actually, one connecting the two halves. I think we can just pop this apart. There we go. And we have an ARM-based processor in here. Looks like a little Bluetooth radio. They've got pogo pins here that connect to the speaker. Let's move this out of the way. Oh, actually, this is the part we want to look at. Yeah, there's a little bit of evidence of something going on here. I don't see any huge corrosion or anything. But it appears as though our cables go straight. We gotta get this board out of here. There's a little weather sealing piece. Pull out our little caps here for the switch control, because I think those are holding it in. These are the monoport jacks I'm talking about. I think that went on my footplate. And then this might just come out of here. Maybe? Oh, there we go. Oh, weird. Can you see this? They're using these weird crimp-on connectors for the power wire. Is that... Okay, I'm confused. If they're relying on this style of press-in knife blade thing, it would make sense that we're having issues. Give me a few minutes. I'm gonna inspect this. Okay, I pretty much can't even believe what I'm seeing right here. This is on the top list of the most screwed up design implementations I have ever seen on a mobility device or any sort of vehicle or anything that's supposed to be reliable. Every single one of these connections is a press-in knife blade style. So instead of soldering, what you do is you take the wire, you don't bother stripping it, and you just take something like a screwdriver or whatever and jam it down in there. And the knife blades cut through the insulation and make a connection to the circuit. Our programming pins are that way. Our data lines for the CAN bus are that way. At least our two charging wires, which is this white one and this black one, pass straight through and down the cable. So the charging jack is right here. Those wires come through, go down the cable, and then make their way more or less directly to the batteries. But our sensing for charging is this little tiny green wire here that's clipped in, and anyways, I could rant on and on about this, but I would have to say that this is probably the issue we're having. I don't see any moisture problems in here, and I don't even know what to think here at this point. I'm going to kind of reseat these a little bit and put everything back together and see if our error goes away. But what's happening is, well, the way these systems are supposed to work, this black wire here, assuming that it is the negative on the charger, actually, yeah, so that's the negative. When this green wire here, which is the bottom pin, shorts to this one, it tells the chair it's charging. And this mess of connections is supposed to make that reliable and tell the joystick when this is connecting to this, and then pass through to the logic here and tell it, yes, the chair is in fact charging, and then also lock out the ability for it to drive so that you don't accidentally drive away while it's connected. Okay. I don't blame Quantum for this, other than the sense that, well, actually, maybe I do. A different company built this, but Quantum signed off on it. I'm just going to turn off the camera and play with this. I am very much annoyed right now that I'm even looking at this mess. Yeah, the camera's crooked, whatever. Well, I've got a Quantum and it's already broken. I can't figure out what's going on here. It thinks it's charging and it's not. And that's with nothing connected to this port. I could, I suppose, try disconnecting the inhibit wire, but I don't know. Anyways, the build quality of the chair seems like it might be okay. I said that about the forefront when I first got it, but the idea here is to get this thing working and then run around in it for a while and see what I think about it. This charging issue, though, by the way, here's the connector they use. It's like a 6-pin thing. Huh, well, there you go. I can screw around with it and get it to work. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think at this point, I'm just gonna put it back together. And I've taken some photos of some of the chips and stuff in here if anybody's interested. But I'm just gonna put it back together, screw around with it a little bit more, drink some more coffee, and I don't know. This might be the end of the video, I have no idea. We'll see what happens. I can't believe this. I mean, I can, but like, really? That's a mess. Not plugged into the charger. it's just sitting here power cycling on its own. It's that mode where it normally turns halfway on to monitor charging and stuff. Yeah, just sitting here going for a ride. I guess at this point, we might as well pull the battery door off and see if we can disconnect something in there for no reason. Actually, I'm going to unhook the joystick for now so it stops doing that. I don't get it. It was working fine. It's never had this problem. I charged it overnight in one of the vans. The next morning it was fine. Then I put it in the other van overnight. Granted, it was cold outside. It was not connected to a charger, but then I went to turn it on and it just started doing this. I'm assuming it has to be the joystick. I don't have another one of these though. Anyways, I guess let's hop on the floor and see what's going on in there. It's a battery door. And we appear to have batteries inside. They're not on a tray though. How does this work? On other Quantums, there's giant connectors right here you can pull off. Not seeing it in this one. What are these things? 12 volt, 55 amp hour. So I think these are group 22s. It's kind of flopping around in here. No, but seriously though, how do you get these out? And also, where's my flashlight? Oh, that battery cable is very, very pinched. Oh man. Is that metal? I'm gonna pull on this and hopefully nothing bad happens. Yeah, look at that. Can you even see that? Okay, so it looks like they have inline fusing now. There's no circuit breaker that I can see. Oh, okay, there's a connector. There. Brand are these? Oh, these are the Quantum interceptors. So this was their answer to the Permobil Volt Pro stuff, apparently. Nanosilica. And we have another battery hiding way back in there. There's some nice silicone cables, though, I must admit. And I got some screws holding them on there. Yeah, that other Anderson connector is just flopping around back in here. I think maybe you can see that. Oh yeah, and our power cable is pinched pretty heavily against the chassis. Huh. Well, oh, they're made by UPG. Universal Power Group is the sticker on this battery. Well, I guess some things never change. Huh. Well, I'm going to leave this unhooked for a few minutes and see if that resets anything. Only thing I can think of is inside that joystick there might have been some capacitive coupling or a bad connection for some reason going on that makes it think it's connected to the charger. I suppose what I could do is plug in the programmer and see if we can disable drive inhibit when it's connected to a charger. That might be one workaround for this. Huh. Okay, so I plugged this goofy thing back in and it gave an error that I can't remember saying input device not detected. And then it said hand control. Then it said please give a left, right, left response. And I did that. And now it's got an eyeball staring at us. Will it drive? It seems to move. Can we power cycle it? It's turning back on. Now it's off. Relay click. Another relay click. Turning back on. These pins look fine. Will it turn on? Please turn on. It's like just in this loop. On. Please turn on. Okay, now we have our screen again, and it shows it's charging. So disabling that in the programmer now, I'm just realizing that won't make any difference because these have some firmware thing baked in, or when it sees that pin connected, it, oh, I just had a thought. I probably shouldn't have put the joystick back together. I think I'm gonna take this back apart and unplug that little daughter board with all those horrific connectors on it, then power it up, and see if it still has a problem. I think that could potentially tell us, if it stops doing that, that the problem's on that little board. Look, it's a rat I caught by the tail. Okay, there we've got one of the old school Lester style chargers, and this is a Quantum 6000Z. This has QLogic 1. This does not have the charging detection, but the chair powers up when you connect the charger. And it will show the percentage of charge there based on its current sensing. Hold the phone still. So charger's clicked on and it just sits there in that sort of half powered up state, telling you it's connected to the charger. Now, even if the charger's off, it'll still power up and do that. That's activated when the inhibit and the negative pins are tied together by this cable. So when you unplug it, it'll turn off. So that is typical functionality. Slight snafu. I disconnected this board from here and went to turn it on. Nothing happened. Then I realized all those janky connections are what's powering the joystick. Huh. Well, that's a thing. So I checked everything all the way through. This is in the inhibit port, and right to this pin here, we get continuity. Then if we move it to battery negative, and switch hands to this pin, continuity. If we go back to this pin, nothing. And then also, if we do both of these, right there we go, nothing shorted. So that tells me, I mean, it rules out this board and this mess. After it gets onto this board, our problem's in here somewhere. Hey, I've been going absolutely nuts here, tracing out all the pins and vias that go through this circuit board. I've been able to trace from the charging jack all the way through to this little capacitor right here in the top corner. Nothing shorted. The ground is over here. It's not shorted. I was talking to someone and he's like, oh, the main controller has a charging input on it. And if that's triggered, it could cause our problems. So we will be removing the back cover on this now and seeing if anything funky is plugged into that port, because, yeah, why not? Okie dokie. Here we have the back of this that reminds me of Boston Dynamics for some reason. There's some random levers here, so let's flip these, I'm assuming. And that makes it come open. Flip lever. Why you no flip? Do I need pliers to flip these levers? Shut up, meter. Okay, it just took a little more work. Let's see what else is going on here. Hey, that's good for the finish. It had a protective look. It had a protective coating of dirt on it. Whoa, that's a big controller, what? So, charging port. Oh, that made it start clicking. Ooh. What? It swings open. Interesting. What's going on back here? It has hinges. Where's our lighting controller? So there's the button. Is that back here somewhere? Oh, yeah, there's our lighting controller. Wait a minute. Is our lighting controller screwing us over? I think it's powered with this. I need a flashlight. Are you kidding? I don't know why it's got that eyeball that's looking at me now. I unplugged this stupid lighting controller. The one for these little fender lights. I think it's being... I have to hold this together. I think it's being powered by the charging port. Hang on, let's make sure we're actually fixed here. I'm going to power cycle this again. It's staying off. Okay, so I'm going to unplug this because I don't have any screws in it and I'm holding it together by hand. Yeah, it's off. So apparently, if your chair thinks it's charging when it's not, it's because your fender lights control module has gone Tango uniform and it makes it think it's charging. Here, let's plug this back in and see if it starts freaking out. Actually, it won't because the joystick's not connected. Yeah, that's this guy right here. Let me verify. Feet are in the way. Well, having to deal with legs that don't work is stupid. It's this one here. Yeah, that's the one. It's the freaking stupid... Sorry, I'm not mad. Don't get me wrong, having some lights are better than none. But when Quantum says that all chairs come with lights for free, and they give you, like, not even high output LEDs, 6 of them, I don't call that lights, but anyways. Good call, White Raven. It was that charging port that those lights were running off of. Thank you. You fixed my chair. I'm pissed that it was broken because of that. But, yeah. Anyways, apparently the controller's on hinges. Doors are wings! I got the joystick back together and realized that seal is not in there. So we're taking it back apart again to put that in. So yeah, the fender light controller was our problem. After I get this all put back together and everything tightened down and all that stuff, I'm gonna pull that thing out of there and see if maybe there is some sort of... Stop driving. See if there was some sort of wiring or something on the output side of that maybe shorted to the chassis. Even though everything's supposed to be isolated, there is still a chance. But the fact that they run that module off of the charging port, because there's an additional charging port, because they used to use onboard chargers on a lot of chairs. I don't know if they still do. I think in the US they stopped doing that because of... Someone said it was fire hazard, I don't know, but they stopped doing that for whatever reason. And, but yeah, so they're powering the lights, there's a little seal, off of that. And I was traced, like, see the sticker on this phone receiver here? That was on the back of this one PCB. I thought maybe, okay, maybe the sticker got conductive somehow, and that's like, because it was right over 2 of the vias that go through the circuit board. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's somehow doing anything. I got out the cleaning wipes and I was cleaning everything. I probed it all out. I mean, it was just a whole thing. But yeah, apparently that module got screwed up or something. So I can work with that. Pretty sure we're fixed now. I probably shouldn't say that while the cases are still open because it can hear me. And it still might flip out and decide that it doesn't want to work or something. But it's weird that there's one rubber gasket right there, but nowhere else on this case. Although the way this is, water's not really going to get down in there. Oh, it is metal. Anyways, I'm gonna get everything put back together, then I'll be back. Because, yeah, something. Okay, so where did we leave off? I think it was cable management. I took the back cover off here. These two things were just hanging down out of the back of the chair. The thing is, they actually have these little cable guides right here that these connectors snap into to make things nice and tidy. So I'm pulling some of these cables through here inside the back and rerouting them so that, oh, here, hang on a second. Okay, what I was saying, they actually have these spots right here for these connectors to fit into. I'm going to have to figure out something to do here though. But anyways, they had the idea for cable management built in at least. It just wasn't being used and they were just dangling down here in the breeze. Which, since this chair doesn't have a recline actuator, as you can see right here, there's just a big piece of metal pipe and a quick takedown pin right here. This isn't going to be moving currently. So I am going to get a recline actuator and put it in here. Granted, we won't have the shear reduction, but at least we'll have recline. So there will be a video about that at some point. In theory, all we got to do is buy the actuator and plug it into our seating controller here. And we may have to do some programming adjustments. But yeah, anyways. See, there's slots right here. I like that. Why didn't we use them? Okay, more putting of things back together. I'll be back. And now I'm working on lowering these strange looking posts that stick out of the back. I think that's for like handles or something else maybe. I don't know. I think if I pull this out, it should just drop down a bit. Hopefully not too far because I'm not holding on to it. Well, what do you know? So I figured out what that weird eyeball in the corner was for. That's for, wait for it, iLevel, because you're at eye level, so there's an eyeball looking at you. Yeah. Then it goes away. Anyways, this thing seems to be working now. Barring any programming that needs to be done. Seems to move around pretty good. Actually, what is our max speed on this thing? 6.2 miles an hour. Let's lift up our eye level. Gosh, now I'm saying it. Let's lift up our seat lift. Okay, so there it's activated. Let's see what our speed is now. I think they claim 3.5. 3.6. All right, that works. Let's do the jiggle test here. We'll stop and I'll shake back and forth. Yeah, I mean, not too much movement. Granted, there's only, well, 53 miles on this thing now. But, yeah. Cool, something. It's a chair. And I don't mind the color. The blue is actually, I can't really see any of it here, but yeah, I don't mind the blue at all. It's decent. Okay, what have we learned or what's happened today? Well, we got the chair adjusted. It's sitting over there. I got it plugged into the charger now just because the batteries were, it's charging, whatever. It broke itself, then we fixed it. Yeah, I was chatting with White Raven and we went through everything. I was probing out all these points, trying to figure out if these little surface mount capacitors are bad and whatever. And then he's like, oh, there's a charging port on the actual power module. Not like when you plug in XLR2, but I mentioned it. They were for onboard chargers. It's legacy, but it's still there. So I will, at some point, be taking apart that little lighting controller and figuring out what exactly it did or how the problem was caused. Thing seems to be working reliably now. I haven't gotten the phantom charging going on anymore. And that's one of those strange things where it doesn't throw any errors because it's not a problem. Anyways, I get myself into trouble saying I think I like a Quantum. Someone I know got a Quantum Forefront because I thought I liked it. And I think there's been a couple of viewers that may have gotten them as well. So take all this with a grain of salt. We are going to put this thing through its paces and test it. It does have the NF22 or Group 22 batteries in it. usually the way so they claim it gets 16 miles on a charge. The way I calculate what they claim the range is, you take the range they say, you cut it in half, and then you take off maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour. Now the Eege 2.0 was a similar drive system. I think it might have used QLogic 2. Regardless, it's a 120 amp controller. This thing's running QLogic 3, which is not programmable unless you have a programmer. But I still think, I mean, someone my size, I don't think I'm going to get more than 7 miles out of it. We will test that. The chair was built in 2021, so it's not that old. The batteries have been maintained, even though it was in storage. So yeah, there you go. Super long video of me spiraling into madness. Yeah. Let me know if you have any thoughts or comments or questions about Eege 3 Strettos or Eege 3s, because they're pretty similar chairs. And we might make a video about it, or it'll be included in one at some point. So anyways, there you go. It is, wait, 10 o'clock at night. I better get to editing. Well, I'm almost done editing now, so anyways. Hopefully you enjoyed. It's been an interesting roller coaster. Hopefully the roller coaster continues downhill or level, or what's the bad thing that roller coasters do? Hopefully the chair works fine and we don't have any more problems. I'll see you Thursday on the live stream. Thanks for watching. Does it need percussive maintenance?